Bekavich is excused. Alderman Verhaelen.
Here.
Tillman.
Here.
Gale.
Here.
Guzekowski.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Item 3 is approval of the minutes of September 20th, 2016.
Kirkowski make a motion to approve the minutes of September 20th, 2016.
Verhaelen seconds. Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Under public hearings, item 4 is a street vacation, proposed discontinuation and vacation of the 70-foot wide public street being part of certified survey map number 8230 in the southeast quarter of the southwest one quarter of section 10, town 5 north, range 22 east in the 1st district. City clerk will now read the public hearing notice.
Public hearing number 1 proposes the discontinuing and vacation of the public street right-of-way in the city of Oak Creek, Milwaukee County, Wisconsin. The legal description thereof being as follows. A 70-foot wide public street being part of a certified survey map number 8230 recorded on April 14, 2010, and Reel 7343 of certified survey maps is document number 9863468 and lands in the southeast quarter of section 10, town 5 north, range 22 east in the city of Oak Creek, county of Milwaukee, state of Wisconsin, founded and described as follows. The date of the notice is August 18th, 2016.
Doug?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Doug Seymour. I am the Director of Community Development with the City of Oak Creek. And this is a public hearing. It's actually the first of several items dealing with the property at hand this evening. But this would discontinue and vacate the 70-foot wide public street in the the southeast and southwest quarter of Section 10, as illustrated hopefully on your monitors when it comes up here. This is all part of the HSI development known as Drexel Ridge. This was introduced to the Common Council. The resolution was introduced at their August 16th meeting and was held to allow for this public hearing this evening.
There you go.
Good. All right. So essentially, this public street was dedicated to the city of Oak Creek, or the right-of-way for the public street. There is no street there, no physical street, was dedicated as part of the previous development of the property to the west for the Life Creek Church. And as this street has been dedicated, it no longer lines up with the planned street for the Drexel Ridge development, which in either case is a private road, so it wouldn't be public right-of-way anyway. So it was as part of the development, it is necessary to vacate that. The land formerly occupied by the public street would then be essentially transferred back to the adjacent property owners. This is a public hearing. I would ask anyone who has any questions or comments regarding the proposal to vacate the 70-foot right-of-way affecting the properties at 2100, 2200, and 2280 East Drexel Avenue and 7721 South Pennsylvania Avenue to please fill out an appearance form. Hand that in to the city clerk when your name is called. Please approach the microphone, give your name and address, and proceed to address your comments and or questions to the Common Council. This public hearing is now open.
Make 3 calls for public comment on item number 4. First call. Thank you. Wagner?
Putting on weight.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything.
Arden Degner, 8540 South Pennsylvania Avenue. This is unfortunate. Safety is of utmost importance. And as I was just driving down Forest Hill Avenue, there are 2 places in that block from Verdev to Howell, where I saw individuals walking along the side. There was no sidewalk. Some of them had dogs, and same way with this proposal. The proposal with 645 parking spaces of this development. And of those, there are only 2 places where these people with these vehicles can enter and exit, and that's on Pennsylvania and on Drexel. Now, my serious concern, because we just a year ago put a sign and a crosswalk just a quarter mile south on Pennsylvania Avenue so that the people from this subdivision on the, actually it's a cul-de-sac on the west side of Pennsylvania Avenue, the children could walk safely, hopefully, across to catch the bus for the schools, and as well as, and I've seen dozen children at that area, and you know that those houses are all individual, and there are not that many individuals living in these large houses in that subdivision, both east and west there, just north of where I live. But this particular subdivision has no provision. Just imagine, and I've heard it said that, well, they'll just drive up and have a way of picking up children in the subdivision at, we'll say, usually it's right at 8 o'clock or 7:30. Some buses are later, somewhat later, 8:15. Then they would make a right turn and exit, this is the proposal I heard, and exit over on Pennsylvania Avenue. But at that time, you've got traffic on each one of those roads. Will these be actually blocks for the traffic? And especially since the elevation of these roads from the north end of this subdivision to the south end is 40 feet difference. That means that there's at least 10 feet between each one of these roads that they have, making it hazardous in wintertime. If that was platted as it was, if it is going to be developed as it was platted here a few years ago for single-family homes, you can put turnabouts and so that individuals would be able to park on level and be able to accommodate a drive to it. But to me, this is asking for nothing but problems with these children that are in the subdivision for a bus pickup. There's no provision made, and to me, this public street at least afforded the possibility of some control of the city council.
I'm going to ask you to wrap it up, Mr. Degner.
How's that?
I'm going to ask you to wrap up your comments.
All right. There's a statute stating in the state statutes that schools must provide pickup and discharge for students on public roads. But what will happen when these students congregate at one spot or another and will run into the roads? To me, this public street is needed so that city council has control. As you can recall, I was in this council in '74 when the business manager asked for the city to provide some sidewalks so that the school district could not afford the high cost of diesel. And the city did provide sidewalks on Shepherd to access. But why doesn't, in those days, it was the city's responsibility for the school district as well. Take responsibility. Be responsible. Turn this down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Degner. Second call for comment on item number 4. Third and final call for comments on item number 4. Sure. Just made it. Glenn McCoy.
Glenn McCoy, 7739 South Pennsylvania, so I'm late. I just wanted to make sure that if I missed a picture or anything, that this was only on the Drexel Avenue side, not on the Pennsylvania Avenue side?
Go ahead, Doug.
Correct.
You're welcome. Thanks for being quick. Anybody else on the third call? This time I'll close the public hearing and move to item 5, which is a consideration of resolution number 11730-0811616, vacating the 70-foot wide right-of-way affecting the properties at 2100, 2200, and 2280 East Drexel Avenue and 7721 South Pennsylvania Avenue in the First District, and open up for questions or comments from the council. Nothing over there. Nothing to my left. Seeing no comments or questions, let's get a motion on 5.
Kirkowski make a motion to approve resolution number 11730-081616, vacating the 70-foot wide right-of-way affecting the properties at 2100, 2200, and 2280 East Drexel Avenue and 7721 South Pennsylvania Avenue.
Kuzikowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye. Item number 6 is a public hearing on a proposed official map amendment submitted by Tony D. Rosa, HSI Oak Creek Partners LLC, on behalf of Mary Volker, Margaret Munson, and Life Creek Church, Inc., to amend the official map for a portion of the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter of Section 10, mapped, unimproved right-of-way affecting the properties at 7721 South Pennsylvania Avenue and 2100, 2200, and 2280 East Drexel Avenue. City Clerk will now read the public hearing notice.
Public hearing number 2 is to consider a proposal by Tony DeRosa, HSI Oak Creek Partners LLC, on behalf of Mary Volker, Margaret Munson, and Life Creek Church, Inc., to amend the official map for a portion of the southeast quarter of the southeast west quarter of Section 10, mapped, unimproved right-of-way affecting the properties at 7721 South Pennsylvania Avenue and 2100, 2200, and 2280 East Drexel Avenue. Date of notice is August 11th, 2016.
Doug?
Thank you. HSI Properties, who is the developer of the Drexel Ridge multifamily development, is currently in the process of revising the boundaries of the properties that were mentioned on Pennsylvania Avenue and Drexel Avenue for development of the multifamily plan unit development. This request is to remove the officially mapped street pattern on those properties as shown on your exhibit and on the screen, in place of the officially mapped streets that were there, which would have followed the right-of-way, which was just vacated by a prior resolution. The streets within the development will all be private, thus the need to have the officially mapped public streets, should the council agree, does not exist. The removal of the streets only affects the properties within the development. The current landowners are co-applicants on this request. The Plan Commission has reviewed proposed official map amendment review, removing these officially mapped streets from those properties, and they have recommended their approval. This is also part of a series of actions this evening by the council. The third one would be a certified survey map, which reconfigures the property boundaries in accordance with the development plan. This is a public hearing. I would ask that anyone has any questions or comments regarding the proposed official map amendment for this property. These properties, to please fill out an attendance form, appearance form, hand it in to the city clerk. Once your name is called, please proceed to the microphone and address your comments and or questions to the common council. This public hearing is now open.
I'll make 3 calls for public comment on item number 6. Mr. LaFord, you indicated you want to speak on 7 or 8. You certainly can come forward on item 6 if you'd like. Sure. And name and address for the record.
My name is Jeff LaFond. I live at 8045 South Bernards Way. With this future development that is being proposed within the Carrollton School District, I was just wondering what the anticipated decision was, where you guys are going to do with an influx of however many children this will bring in to Carrollton. And do
Kind of
you
out
have
of
a
the
plan?
scope of this item, since that's a school district issue, but
Well, this is a city's issue, I would think,
you didn't let me finish.
certainly.
We're always concerned and aware of what the effects of anything we do. So I would direct it over to Doug, if you have had any contact with the school district on that issue.
Well, certainly when the school district went through its redistricting and boundary designations, I mean, they accounted for growth within each of the districts.
This could be 200 kids going into
Okay,
the
let
school.
me
That's
finish, please.
fantastic, sure.
Finish. So although there are a number of children that would be present, whether this would be developed as a multifamily development as proposed, as actually as approved, or whether it's single-family subdivision, there still needs to be growth accounted for in that elementary school district. How the school district chooses to allocate that growth is up to the school district. And we actually did talk with the school district and were involved in some of the planning process for the redistricting. So it's from the standpoint of how they choose to handle the anticipated growth in the community. And that's something that, well, the mayor is correct, that the city certainly works hand in hand with them. And it's a matter of how they choose to deal with that when setting the districts for their elementary school boundaries.
Well, the difference between this being a multifamily and a single family is the difference between 50 kids and 200 kids.
Well, I guess I'm not going
Then
to
it comes back to the city.
debate whether or
And
not to
do I
approve
get
the
a
development.
moment to speak?
Well, I just
Hold
wanna-
on one second.
I just want to answer your question because it's
This
germane
is the
to
city question that I have.
Hold on one second.
Fantastic.
First of all, you direct your questions to me.
I was listening.
The chair, and I'll send them where they go.
Okay.
Let's try not to interrupt each other.
I apologize.
So go ahead.
So this is a public hearing and a request to amend the official map. I think, and I certainly respect your opinion that you don't feel that the development should take place, but that
That's not what I
decision
said.
has been made. This is a public hearing on a request to amend the official map to remove those streets.
Any comment on that specific item?
Clearly not.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, may I make one quick
Sure,
comment?
go ahead. Alderman Kirkowski.
For the benefit of the gentleman who's just leaving. No, I just want to say,
Hold on one second. We don't talk from the audience.
I just want to say that I can,
Go ahead.
back when we voted on this, I did due diligence and homework regarding this matter and a similar development, if you recall, the children that could potentially be here relative to what we have now was less than a dozen kids going to a middle school. That's what the count was that I got. Not 200, 12 kids.
Clearly, we can have formulas that kind of estimate what that could be, but we have no clear understanding of what it actually could be. But like everything we do in the city, we measure the impact of every development on traffic and schools and city services. That's all part of the formula.
Mayor?
You can come up and ask a specific question on this item. You got to come up to the mic, though.
Out of all the information I've ever been received in the mail regarding this, nowhere did it ever say that it was such a small impact. The anticipation was if something of a development of this large could bring in and then cause a bigger problem for the city. Obviously, we would need desks. And if that is indeed not the case, well, then it's not a problem and I was unaware of it. I have reached out to the city previously via email to try to get information on it. I was never received a response, so I had no idea. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Anything else before I go to Alderman Gale?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Alderman Gale.
Just for the gentleman's benefit, I remember that the school district will take approximately 38 cents on every tax dollar generated by this district or this development, which is going directly to the general fund since outside taxes come in finance. So this is a significantly tax-heavy entity and will be providing quite a bit of support to the school district, from which they can make future decisions on potential influx of new students.
You're welcome. Second call for public comment on item number 6. And third and final call. Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public hearing and move to item 7, which is a consideration of ordinance number 2825, amending the official map for a portion, 48,383 square feet of the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter of Section 10, mapped unimproved right-of-way between 2200 and 2280 East Drexel Avenue, between 2100 and 2280 East Drexel Avenue in the First District. Any questions or comments from the council?
I do.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Either Doug or Tony, you're here. Where are we, somewhat relative to this item here, where are we with regards to site designs or, like traffic studies, going out on the Pennsylvania Avenue and Drexel and stuff like that? I know we're vacating streets that would have been for a subdivision, but just where are we with those plans?
We actually have the applicant here, so name and address. For the
Tony
record.
DeRosa, HSI Properties, 18500 West Corporate Drive in Brookfield. The traffic study and everything engineering related was approved a few months back by the Plan Commission. Working with engineering, working through the traffic studies, all of that has, we've worked through all those items.
Okay. I guess I made a non-binding suggestion with regards to access off of Pennsylvania Avenue. I see that potentially there still could be access with regard to vacating the street, but there's still a area between houses, which I believe could be an access point off of Pennsylvania Avenue. I mean, have you come up with any type of idea with regards to, again, my suggestion was if you're exiting, you have to turn right, no left turn, and if you're entering southbound, right turn only, no left turn, northbound. I mean, what did you guys come up with? Or not come up with anything yet?
Would you like me to address this, or?
Mike.
I apologize if I missed it, and I'm just not.
Yeah, I can address that, Alderman Kirkowski. There was a traffic impact analysis that was performed by the developer's consultant, and that was reviewed and approved by this department in the city. And that intersection with Pennsylvania will be a full intersection, left-hand or right-hand turn out. And there were no extraneous requirements. There will be an XL and a decel lane coming into and out of that driveway.
Okay. All right. That's my only. Thank you.
Other questions?
We're preparing to start within the week.
Oh.
Yeah, we've been working with staff very closely, and we're ready to go.
Hope for good weather. If no other questions, we'll move for a motion on. I'll ask for a motion on item 7.
Kirkowski make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2825, amending the official map for portion 48,383 square feet of southeast 1/4 of the southwest 1/4 of section 10, mapped unimproved right-of-way between 2200 and 2280 East Drexel Avenue and between 2100 and 2280 East Drexel Avenue.
I will second.
Where we get the roll call.
Wasn't sure if we're
question.
voting on this. Are we voting on the vacate of that, or are we voting on the new traffic pattern? I'm not sure where we're at.
Not the traffic pattern.
Or the new mapping of the streets for that area.
Oh,
Go ahead, Doug.
I'm sorry.
This action, and the council already did vote to vacate that right of way under the previous resolution. This action would remove the officially mapped streets from that. So essentially the private streets which are being proposed are, and which were approved as part of the site plan, are going to be built as part of this development.
I was under the impression that the neighborhood or the people affected would have been notified of those meetings, other than, and we were not notified of any of those planning commission meetings at all.
I mean, typically, and we can go back and investigate, but it is standard practice to notify those property owners within 300 feet of the development when it is on the agenda.
As you can see, there's only 2 neighbors here from Pennsylvania, and none of us knew about the other planning commission meetings. This is very frustrating, as you can tell. I mean, there's only a certain amount of time that people in the community come and have this collective working condition, and when it affects families, it's very difficult to stomach. When you don't have a representative that would back the constituents and yet we don't have a process that it happens. It happens once before, and it was waived that we would do the vote next time without any, the last time that we had this.
These are the notifications that went out for Plan Commission. Pretty extensive,
Well,
which is beyond the 300
is there a
feet.
McCoy on there? Because we did not receive anything. And as we would go, and I would have spoke to that point of 10 years ago when we redid the map, they took away part of my property. I would have spoken
you were on this
against
list.
that. Nothing was received, and I could pull the other residents that were on
Let's just
Pennsylvania.
focus it on your opinion or your comment.
Okay, well, that was my comment. That I'm very disappointed. And there's only so many times that in our lifetime will we come into contact with this in government. And so far, through this whole process, we have not received notice for this.
Well, you're on the address list, so whatever happened to that. I'll say this. We do what we're required to do on notifications, and we usually even go beyond that.
Yeah.
We've had extensive hearings and public hearings on this issue, because I know you were at some of them. Ultimately, the 6 gentlemen up here will make a decision based on all the things they have to think about it when you're talking about development. Some of the questions were raised earlier.
Right.
I understand frustration of residents, been dealing with for 8 years in all my roles. I get it. We have to follow the procedures that are laid out for us and
I
allow
understand.
people to speak when we have the opportunity.
And I totally get that you are following procedure, but yet we all have to be accountable
That is true.
for that notification where that's that customer service where we're talking about of having that your customers are being represented or are being, the watchdog is watching.
Thank you for your comments. All right, we had a motion and a second. Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Item 8 is consideration of resolution number 11746-10416. It would approve a certified survey map for the properties at 2100, 2200, 2280 East Drexel Avenue and 7721 South Pennsylvania Avenue in the First District.
Thank you. This is actually the third item on this evening's agenda dealing with the HSI development. This certified survey map would reconfigure the property boundaries for those affected properties in accordance with the site plan that was approved by the Plan Commission. Lot 1, as you see it, and again, just as far as the configuration is concerned, north would be to my left, Pennsylvania Avenue would be the top of this, and Drexel Avenue is to the right side of that. Lot 1 would be the first phase of development, Lot 2 would be the second phase, and Lot 3 would be the clubhouse portion of that. The Plan Commission has reviewed this proposed CSM, and they have recommended their approval, subject to a few conditions. With respect to, they needed to show the existing driveway for the Life Creek Church and the CSM. They needed to show wetlands on all sheets of the CSM. There were just some issues with respect to how the right-of-way was illustrated on Drexel Avenue, and the request to show a 25-foot water main easement along the public water main as part of the conditions of approval, and those conditions also carry through the resolution that is before you this evening.
Okay, any questions or comments from the council? Alderman Kirkowski.
I am trying to remember if I had received, I know we're at this point where you guys are going to start building, correct?
They indicated they're going to start not building, but
Yeah.
site prep a week from now, weather
Okay.
permitting.
Could someone make sure that I get a copy of the the final drawings, designs and stuff, because I don't remember if I ever got a copy of them. And I just want to make sure that I see them, because that way I don't get any correspondence or any contact with the residents on Pennsylvania Avenue. But I would like to make sure that the promises made are promises kept.
Okay, we'll make sure that happens. I
Thank you.
can tell you that having seen the plans and some of the images are pretty detailed and pretty specific, so we'll get those to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Roll call on 8. Motion on 8.
Kirkowski make a motion to approve resolution number 11746-110416, approving a certified survey map for the properties at 2100, 2200, and 2280 East Drexel Avenue and 7721 South Pennsylvania Avenue.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
No.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Moving on to new business, item 9 is a consideration of resolution number 11747-100416. It authorizes the issuance and sale of $17,125,000 in general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2016C. We have, Jerry's going to speak on this.
I'm going to start, and then we're going to have Paul Thompson
Sure.
to talk about the sale itself. So the action, actually 9 and 10, there's 2 actions. There's refunding of bonds that we've already issued on a temporary basis for the infrastructure and at Drexel Town Square here. This first action is to put into permanent financing the tax exempt bonds. We have taxable bonds and tax exempt, so this is for the public portion of the project. Paul will give you the good news. This shows $17,625,000, but you're going to lower that number because of the rates we got in your actions tonight, and Paul will talk about that. Payment of these bonds will begin in 2017 and will be generated from the increment, the property tax increment that's generated at Drexel Town Square. We are anticipating the 2017 increment to be in the range of $58 to $65 million, which will generate somewhere between 1.3 and almost $1.5 million. At build out, we're looking at about $240 million in value at Drexel Town Square. So the increment will pay for the debt service. We also have some guarantees in the various development agreements that we have, and we have almost $1 million in funds with action that will occur later that we're going to get from our partner developer that will be available for any shortfalls here. So Paul will talk about the actual sale of the bonds and the rates that we received, but this is typically when we have bonds for a TIF district, we aren't generating that increment right away, so we issue temporary bonds where we're paying interest only. We get into permanent financing where we then start to repay the principal, and so that's the action tonight. We'll start paying the principal as well as the interest back on these bonds.
Okay, Paul?
Thank you. I'll be kind of brief. Take 9 and 10 together. The $17,125,000 of the tax exempt bonds at a final interest rate of 2.61%. That's a final maturity out in 2032. Total principal and interest is about $22.4 million. Back in June, when we periodically do estimates to kind of see where we are we going to have enough money to pay for this? We went through that with a couple weeks ago. Bridget had all of her projections. Our estimate back then was $22.8 million total principal and interest. So we're down about $400,000 from what our estimates were. On the taxable side, and the reason we have tax exempt taxable, for example, when they come in and do the mass grading of the site at the very beginning, they're grading site work for private properties. And under IRS code, that has to be taxable, not tax exempt. So we had a meeting, we went through with bond counsel all of the various items that were listed, that were paid for, and checked off whether they were tax exempt or taxable. So we had the right allocation, so we don't want the IRS to show up on the doorstep. But that's the reason we have two different issues. The final interest rate on the taxable bonds, which also go out to 2032, is 2.9%, with a total principal and interest of $7.7 million. And the June estimate was a little short of $8.2 million for a difference of $440,000. So all the rates came in really, really good. We got fortunate. There was an article in the Business Journal or Business Times, I forget exactly which one it was, that came out on the Monday morning when we went to market We were able to share that with all of our salespeople who shared it with all the potential buyers so they could get a taste of what was really going on in Oak Creek. And I'm sure that that helped to make people familiar with the Oak Creek story, which is pretty phenomenal.
Thank you.
Any questions? I'd be happy to answer them.
Paul, can you give any?
Alderman Gale.
Sorry. Rating agency comment or?
Rating was reaffirmed at a AA2. One of the concerns, of course, that the rating agencies have is because we've done a lot of tax increment work, and Jerry was talking about, it takes about 2 years. If you create a tax increment district and you say, okay, we're going to start putting in infrastructure, it takes about 2 years, 2.5 years before you start to collect any tax increment. Well, you can't even pay interest because you have no money. So we do these 2-year financings, pay interest only, and then refinance them long-term. That's the case here. Moody's has some concerns about that because with all the development that's been going on in the city, we've got a fair number of short-term issues outstanding. This will help to alleviate that concern by a long shot. I mean, this is $23 million that we're able to put into permanent financing and demonstrate to Moody's that the plan that we have implemented is working. So I think that's the main reason why they continue to carry the AA2 rating.
It's interesting that you made the comment about the positive press because I wasn't aware that that actually had some impact on how, beyond just the residents here, how that was perceived.
Sure.
So that it actually could impact some of the things you just talked about. So
Yeah, I mean, investors who buy these bonds are from around the country, and they're institutional investors, and they might not necessarily know exactly where Oak Creek is located or what really is going on in Oak Creek. And that kind of thing provides the story so they can get more comfortable with it also.
good news. Anybody else? Motion.
Gail move to approve resolution 11747-100416 authorizing the issuance and sale of $17,625,000 general obligation refunding bonds series 2016 C.
Hold on one
Sorry,
second.
Jerry, is there a different number?
125.
Yeah, the numbers changed.
Yes, 17,125,000.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
And number 10 is a consideration of resolution number 11748-100416, authorizing the issuance and sale of $5,925,000 of taxable general obligation refunding bond series 2016D. Jerry?
I don't think any additional explanation. This is the taxable portion, same issue on here. We've also provided the council with TID 11 growth in the district, and you see how it's on a very steep upward slope. It's going to continue that for a couple of years to build out.
Anything from the council?
Sure, what's the number we're using on the taxable side?
It's what's in your agenda packet, the 5,000,009.
If nothing else, motion on 10.
Gail will move to approve resolution 11748-100416 authorizing the issuance and sale of $5,925,000 taxable general obligation refunding bond series 2016D.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Item 11 is consideration of ordinance number 2818. It confirms the adoption of the settlement agreement between the City of Oak Creek and the Labor Association of Wisconsin, Inc., and fixes the salary for members of the association from September 1st, 2016 through September 1st, 2017. And who's taking this? Becky?
Becky, you want to take it?
HR Director?
Hi, Becky Shermer, Human Resources Manager. This covers about 44 employees in this agreement with the Labor Association of Wisconsin. That's mainly employees in the Streets Department, Engineering Department, clerical staff, and the custodial or maintenance staff. And the increase would be a 0.33%, which has a total impact of $7,334.75. And the way that the committee and the bargaining committee came up with that is the Wisconsin Department of Revenue actually recommends the Consumer Price Index maximum increase to the Wisconsin Employment Relations Commission. So the 0.33% is the maximum we could give employees.
Legally.
Correct, legally.
Okay. Questions? Alderman Gale?
Just to comment on behalf of the bargaining committee and personnel committee, even though in 0.33 in terms of an annual labor update it is reasonably very paltry in this day and age. We did, however, in the past year, significantly implement changes in the for some of these employees, especially at the DPW garage, with a skills-based compensation system that went into effect, as well as the merit pay system that's in force for performance which is considered above and beyond the call of the regular line item in their job description. So there are alternative means for these employees to gather income above what's unfortunately limited by state law. So we continue to advocate that the department heads rely upon those advantages and significantly advocate for them to make sure they're taking advantage of that. So, I mean, we're limited by law what we can do as a bargaining unit, but there are alternatives that the departments can use to sort of supplement those legally mandated pay levels.
Anything else? Motion on 11.
I'm going to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2818, confirming adoption of the settlement agreement between the City of Oak Creek and Law Incorporated, and fixing the salary for members of the association from September 1st, 2016 through September 1st, 2017.
Gale, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye. Item 12 is a consideration of a motion to approve the vendor summary report in the amount of $1,991,312.30. No comments from the finance director. Any questions from the council? Seeing none, motion on 12.
Bill move to approve the vendor summary report in the amount of $1,091,312.30.
Guzekowski, I'll second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Moving to a couple of treasure items. Item 13 is a presentation of the 2016 citywide statistical assessment reevaluation process by City Assessor Martin Kane and Wisconsin Appraisal Manager Mark Link of Tyler Technologies.
Nope.
It's got to be red. Nope, you had it for a second.
Just talk, Barb. We'll see. Nope. Now you got to press it again. There you go.
There you go.
Oh, well, wrong one, sorry. Good thing I'm not in IT. Okay, so Tyler Technologies is our assessment firm. Annually, they try and come in to give council a presentation on values, and now they're doing the annual statistical revaluation. So I believe Marty Keene is going to speak, our city assessor.
Thank you. Within your packet, I put two sheets. I listed the 2015 and the 2016 assessments. It shows land improvement total, and it also, as a method of comparison, is compared to the equalized value. The equalized value is a value that's derived by the state. It puts you on par with all cities, towns, and villages within Milwaukee County within the state. Our assessments are done, of course, we locally calculate those based on the sales and the data within our community. Within here, you can see that there's been, in the past 2015 to 2016, approximately a 1.88% increase in assessed value for the classes that we're dealing with. Again, we rely on sales. We've been doing revaluations on an annual basis. So what we've been taking a look at is the year previous sales and maybe another quarter of the year previous to that. So as we move from one year to the next year to the next year, we're just always sliding those more recent sales to be considered. So as the market is interacting out there, we're passing those interactions out to the public. We're reflecting the way how those buyers and sellers are coming together with the property values. Taking a look at the community, we're at about 96% of, a little more than 96% of the value in the community is for the real estate portion. It's going to be the land, it's going to be the buildings that are on that land. The other 3.7% is the personal property, which are the furniture, fixtures, tools, assets of commercial enterprises that are out there. They are subjected to personal property tax. If you have a business, you're going to pay property tax not only for your land and your building, but you're also going to pay for those assets that are within the community. When we take a look at the total value within the community, in 2015, between real estate and personal property, we were about $3,045,000 assessed, compared to an equalized value just over $3 billion for for the equalized. This past year, taking a look at those sales and passing those assessments, considering in establishing the assessments, right now our assessment is about $3,107 million, where the equalized value is about $3,108. So again, we're maintaining 100% type of relationship that's there. So again, because we're considering those most recent transactions, it's passing itself along. As we look at the percentages of the real estate, for example, about 61.5% of the residential represents about 61.5% of the total value within the community, and the commercials are up about 29%. We're finding that there was a little bit of a change. It looks to be that there was a slight reduction in the percentage of commercials by only like 0.5%. But there's some other projects that are coming online that were really at their very infant stage that we're not passing that reflection on, because we have to take a look at the assessment based on January 1st of every year. You know, Emerald Row across the street, the other units across the street, they were really only foundations at the beginning of the year, and our assessments reflect that. Next year, we will be taking those completed projects and displaying that current value that's there, along with other projects within the community. Looking at the residential classes, the second page, I've done some stratification, some comparisons as to what happened to the assessments. I broke it down by the style of properties that are out there to see if there are, certain styles are changing different, or is the community pretty much homogeneous. I took a look at the year built, and I took a look at the size of the improvements that were out there. The percentages seem to be the contemporary properties are seeing somewhat of an increase. The condos have recovered a little bit. They actually showed us in this past year that their assessments as an average changed upward slightly. So that's good news. The condos were dealing with financial issues, economic issues out of the recession from 2007, 2008. So it seems like maybe they're starting to stabilize themselves a little bit. But the other ones pretty much just plus or minus just a few percent. So it's not everybody rushing towards one type of property. Looking at the year built, it seems to be that the more current properties, the 2005 to the current properties, we're seeing there a lot of increase. So the new properties are appreciating in value. The sellers are appreciating those more and willing to pay a little bit more than the previous year. The other ones seem to be just stable, holding with the trend as to how values change from year to year. And looking at the square footages, really, again, pretty much all homogeneous. Not anything like the more starter homes are the hottest thing, or the bigger homes are the hottest thing. As a community, it's pretty homogeneous. So everything is flowing well, and we on an annual basis consider those sales in establishing your assessment. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer any.
Questions for Marty? Jerry?
One thing with this good information that's in front of you, I'd like to point out for the council. I think over the last 2 years, we've seen some legislative initiatives to remove the personal property tax. As you see from this number, it's $115 million. There's been proposals that have been to eliminate that completely, or to shift that essentially from business potentially to residential. We have, and you have as a body have objected to that in the past, but I just want to point out when you're looking at this numbers, that's really what you're looking at. It's 3%, as Marty pointed out, but it still has pretty significant financial ramifications. I think at our rate, it's probably $670,000 a year, something like that. So while we're looking at that, that's just one item to pay attention to.
Good point. Alderman Tolman?
As a follow-up to that, Marty, where is the state on that issue? Is that still on the table?
It was initially proposed in the last budget cycle. Most recently, a few weeks back, I went to the assessors conference for some continuing education, and part of that presentation is a roundtable where representatives of the Department of Revenue are there. At this point in time, it doesn't seem to be on the horizon. They're not really motivated to try to bring that into play at this point in time. So it may lay for another couple more years.
Anybody else?
Marty, do you have a
feel for the number of apartment units we have on top of the single-family units?
Pardon me?
Number of multifamily units we have on top of the, or Jerry may have the number?
Yeah, Marty actually did this for me for a presentation that I made a couple weeks ago. I think it's 5,400 that we have. I have a very good breakdown from him in terms of what those units are, what the average per unit cost is, and I can provide that to the council if you'd like. But we're looking at what numbers we're bringing in with some of the new projects, what we already had existed. I think it is 5,400.
Good, Ken?
That's, Jerry, excuse me, is that presently occupied or the numbers we have on the books as well?
No, that is not the numbers we have on the books. That's what we have occupied and what's fully assessed now.
Any other questions? Thanks for the
Oh,
presentation.
Jerry,
Alderman Gale?
I did have one more. This is me a little ahead. In my travels in my district and talking to folks around town, we saw that in our Cobalt survey too, that people think our tax levels are high, too high. But we all know that relatively speaking in the metropolitan area, we enjoy one of the lowest taxation levels, generally speaking.
Yeah, in Milwaukee County, yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
but-
you're on the plus side
Yeah.
now. If you go outside of Milwaukee County and you deal with other towns,
I get the feedback though that, I think it's because we do, and I'd like you to shed some light on it, we do an annual revaluation, whether or not, so people's tax bills are changing versus their neighbors every year. Do other communities do the annual? Is that, in terms of that, is so not only are they seeing maybe a school district adjustment every year, but they're seeing a city readjustment every year because they're, the whole pot's reshuffled every year vis-a-vis their neighbor.
Are we an outlier in that area? Are other communities doing the same thing we're doing, or are we the only ones?
Mark wishes to comment on that.
We have two other communities that previously were doing the annual reassessment. One more has jumped on board. This is year one of that. In addition to the tax burden, the one community that we're in the middle of completing has about 25% more parcels than the city of Oak Creek. Our informal appeals were 3 times what we have been having here annually by doing them annually, and the formal appeals are 4 times what we had this year in the city of Oak Creek. Another municipality that waited 3 years, that's half the size of the city of Oak Creek. We actually had twice as many open books in formal appeals as we had here in the city, and twice the amount of formal appeals that we had here in the city. So there's a lot of benefits to
They got away the surprise factor versus the constant adjustment factor.
Well, I had put together an article for the Treasurers Association a few years ago in working with the city treasurer. You can actually do annual reassessments. You can actually do 2, 3, or 4 of those for the same amount or lesser amount than you can by waiting 4 years or 5 years, in part because of the number of appeals.
Anybody else? Thank you. Barb, do you have anything to weigh in on that one? No? Okay. So we're going to move on to item 14, which is a consideration of a motion to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute a 3-year contract with Tyler Technologies, Inc. for full assessment and software services for the period of 11/1/16 through 10/31/19 for an annual fee of $178,500, $182,100, and $185,700 respectively. And Barb would like to speak to that one.
Okay, so 3 years ago was the first time we went with the full assessment contract through Tyler Technologies. Obviously, Marty was our city assessor, and we had city staff at that time prior to that. And the annual fee for the last 3 years has been $175,000. So Finance Committee looked at this just to, kind of talk about whether or not there were any changes that they'd like to see. They recommended no changes and to move forward with another 3-year contract. So we've been negotiating, Mark and I, Corinne, my deputy, and Catherine, our city clerk, kind of looked at some of the things that have worked, not worked, and negotiated the contract that way. I've pointed out the 6 major changes on your report here. And I guess that's about it, unless you have some questions Mark or Marty can answer.
Three of the changes were related to language.
Yeah, it was legal language, some of it by Melissa, our city attorney, some on the Tyler side. Their attorneys trying to make consistent language throughout all their contracts. So there was nothing, Melissa, there was nothing that you saw that was of any impact, really.
Yeah, I wouldn't call these significant changes. Would you?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, other questions? City Administrator.
The only thing I would point out, and I think Barb would agree with this, Tyler has been very responsive to our needs, any adjustments. I've gotten everything I need when I talk with either Mark or Marty to be able to support our operations. So from my perspective, I'm very happy with the performance they have. And I think Barb would say the same thing. They've been responsive, professional, and so I think this is a good contract for us.
Yeah, I would agree.
As would I. All right, motion on 14.
I'll move to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute a 3-year contract with Tyler Technologies, Inc. for full assessment and software services for the period of November 1st, 2016 through October 31st, 2019 for an annual fee of $178,500, $182,100, and $185,700 respectively.
Guzekowski, will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving to police, item 15 is a consideration of motion to approve the police department's indoor firing range rubber removal replacement, range rubber removal replacement project. Is that a test? Is that the new chief trying to test me? To include the awarding of the contract with DC Management and Environmental Services, Inc. for the removal and disposal of the current rubber at a cost of $24,657, and the purchase of replacement rubber from Black Iron Rubber Company at a cost of $2,347. We are joined by our freshly sworn-in new police chief, Steve Anderson. Welcome. Congratulations. So tell us what we're looking at.
Now I'm on. The range that we've had, building is about coming up to 14 years old, and the material that was put in there has degraded over time. Came to light a couple of years ago. We had a small fire at the very front of the rubber trap part of the range. We were able to extinguish it, but we did some research on it, and right now the rubber on there is cleaned every 5 years. It's a hazardous material because of the lead and the all the black powder. Found that when the rubber was put in, it wasn't the specific rubber. They're supposed to use specific shredded rubber for this material. This was a shredded tire that was put in there with a lot of metal fibers and everything there. With the black powder, it's actually the improper material for the range. It's lasted all this time. Right now, it's a fire hazard. This would have been a year. Last year, we worked with the city administrator, or the former chief did, and had money set aside in an account to take care of this year. So this would have been a year we would have done the $5,000 cleaning and removal of all the lead anyways, which was taken into account. We haven't done that yet. So as part of the process, our training officer went out for 3 separate bids for this. The DC Management bid was the cheapest option. They did send us a contract. I already had the city attorney review that. Some suggestions were made for that contract, and those were added to it. And then we also found, to put the new rubber on the range, some of the bids were in excess of approximately $15,000. We found the place to buy the proper rubber for that. That's the Black Iron Rubber Company, and we can buy the rubber and install it ourselves at the police department for $2,000 with our staff, instead of paying a company to come in and do that for us. So this is something to keep our range. It has to be removed anyways because of the hazard it is right now. It's a hazardous material, so it does cost more to remove this. And in the process of doing this, every year we have to ship all of our old filters for that system out, which costs about $2,000. So that's actually rolled into the range cleanup cost. They'll be removing all of our filters as well.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Sounds pretty straightforward. Seeing none, motion.
Kirkowski make a motion to approve the police department's indoor firing range rubber removal replacement project to include the awarding of the contract with DC Management and Environmental Services, Inc. for the removal and disposal of the current rubber at a cost of $24,657 and the purchase of replacement rubber from Black Iron Rubber Company at a cost of $2,347.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Thank you, Chief. And good luck. Under Community Development, item 16 is a presentation. Staff will provide the council with a brief presentation on the plans for the utilization of hotel room tax revenue.
Thank you very much. In 2015, the state's enactment of Wisconsin Act 55 really dramatically impacted how local municipalities can utilize the room tax revenue it receives from the taxes imposed by hotels within the municipality. It capped the amount of revenue that the local government may retain for purposes other than tourism promotion and development. And as we go through this brief presentation, I'll kind of show you what impact that's had over the past years and what impact it has moving forward. But the legislation, which is in many cases kind of difficult to interpret and unclear, establishes how that room tax is to be used and by whom. And staff has been tracking this legislation for several years now and has, like many other municipalities in the state, had a lot of questions about how the DOR will interpret this law and moving forward how they will regulate it. The League of Wisconsin Municipalities has provided some guidance through a series of FAQs, and I have provided those as part of your packet. I won't go into those, but it really kind of clarifies for our purposes how we might respond to that legislation through an action plan, which I'll share with you this evening. So if you'll bear with me just a little bit, local room tax, again, Wisconsin Act 55, says as of January of 17, a municipality must forward to a tourism entity or commission any room tax exceeding the amount it may retain per statute, and we'll show you as on the next slide. Important note about that is the room tax revenue must be spent on tourism promotion and development, and it cannot be spent directly by the municipality. It must be, again, exclusive of that can be retained, forwarded to a tourism entity if one existed as of 1/1/15, which in Oak Creek's case, it did not. So if none exists, the municipality may contract with another organization for tourism marketing services. And per the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, kind of the FAQs we talked about, it says the municipality may contract with another municipal agency for tourism promotion and development, which is a little bit different read than we had gotten from some of the earlier interpretations of the state statute. So what does that mean? I mean, the little graph here showing for the past 5 years, the amount of revenue that the city has taken in from the hotel room tax. In 2012, and we only went back 5 years, recognized that $400,000 was always directed towards the general fund. The remainder of that always went to Fund 31, or the Economic Development Fund, and was used to fund the activities of the CDA and our business expansion and our business recruitment efforts. So you can see at, up until 2015, that it remained constant. There was always growth in the amount of taxes collected because of, in many cases, there were additional hotels or there's increased room rates or occupancies. So you'll see throughout this chart and the one that follows that there is on the scale, you can see a trend towards higher revenues that are collected. In 2015, the council, as part of its budget, directed that $457,000 of the hotel motel room tax be directed towards the general fund, the remainder going to the CDA. Also, in that year, another thing happened in that the city enacted an additional 2% room tax, bringing its room tax up to 8% to mirror that, which happens almost exclusively throughout Milwaukee County. And because it increased its room tax by an additional 2%, it was required to direct the majority of that, I think 70% of that new tax, towards a tourism commission or tourism activities. And that's what you see in that orange. So for the past year and a half, we have been collecting money and directing it to a fund for this tourism commission. So the statute essentially says, remember, that it caps the amount of money that a municipality can retain for its general government purposes or whatever purposes it designates. it says that in 2017, municipality can retain as much tax as it retained in 2014, which in Oak Creek's case is 643,000. I won't read the numbers. In 2018, it goes down to 2013, 2019 to 2012, 2020 to 2011, and 2021 and beyond. The city can only retain what it retained in 2010, which was $538,391.93. As a note, I will say there's also a caveat in the state statute that said you can keep the greater of that or 30% of the hotel motel room tax that's collected. And given the fact that the city does not collect enough room tax so that the 30% would ever exceed that $538,000 for quite some time. So here you see kind of a combination of the historic room taxes collected and projecting that out to those same years, out to 2021 and beyond. And as you can see that the amount that will be retained by the general fund will remain steady, and it can remain steady throughout that time period. What will happen is that as the amount that must be directed towards this tourism entity or tourism commission increases, the amount that's available for Fund 31 starts to decrease, and that happens pretty rapidly starting in 2017. So,
can I just jump in quick?
Yep.
What do you think the state, since the state's the one that changed these rules, what do you think the state's reaction going to be when all of us have set up tourism commissions redirect the money back, or don't even let it get to the state, but just keep it here? What do you think the state reaction to that's going to be?
Oh, it was never actually going to the state.
Well,
I mean, it was going to promote tourism and
right, but in faraway areas that don't necessarily benefit us of the state.
The money would always stay local because
It would.
whether it's your tourism entity, whether it's to send it to, for instance, Visit Milwaukee, or to a new tourism entity in Oak Creek, it would always stay and be directed locally. It would never go up to fund activities in the Dells or Dark County, for example.
So how do they define local?
It's
Southeastern Wisconsin?
Because it's directed to your tourism commission, and your tourism commission makes those decisions as to where they want to direct that. And I suspect.
Okay, so my point is, does it have to be focused on our city, or can it be beyond that?
It can be beyond that.
Okay, so it could be other places in southeastern Wisconsin.
Yes.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, you'll see as one of the proposed action items, we are proposing that we do actually fund some activities for regional tourism, because we are part of a larger region, obviously, that has other attractions that help out Oak Creek hotels. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But you can see the definition, the state's definition for tourism promotion and development. Three big things I want you to know here is that tourism promotion and tourism development includes marketing projects, including advertising media buys, printed or electronic materials, or recruitment of conventions, sporting events, etc. It also includes transit tourist information services. And the third one is tangible municipal development, including convention center. And that may become pertinent as we move forward on this. So here's kind of the action plan that I've come up with in consultation with Melissa and Bridget and Jerry and the league, and we have had some pretty lengthy discussions. I think at one point there were about 300 different municipalities on a conference call.
700.
I'm sorry, 700. So it's
Conference call.
we aren't alone in our interpretation of this, but I'm proposing that the city use its tourism commission to spend room tax revenue consistent with the state statute. And what that means is that the tourism commission also may contract with other organizations such as Visit Milwaukee or the South Suburban Chamber of Commerce, provided that the monies that they contract with are used for those tourism promotion and development services. Also means that the city may lease space in the Civic Center to the Chamber of Commerce. Also allows for the possibility of the Tourism Commission leasing space, at Drexel Town Square. I was thinking possibly of having that exist or coexist in the space designated for the police substation. We would be proposing at this point that the Tourism Commission create a position for destination marketing specialist. And we would also be proposing that the Tourism Commission budget include many of those traditional economic development expenses that have been traditionally done by the CDA, whether it's through organizational memberships or business recruiting or media buys, consulting services. provided that at least 51% of that budget is spent on tourism promotion and development. So kind of prepared a sample of Tourism Commission budgets just to show how that might work. And it's important to note that, I mean, this Tourism Commission will have some autonomy with respect to how it uses those dollars. It won't act as a traditional city board or commission where the Common Council would have the final say over many of the expenditures. The mayor would be appointing these individuals to the Tourism Commission, but they would have the authority to direct those funds that were provided through the hotel motel room tax. So you can see kind of in that yellow or gold area, we're showing some of those areas which have traditionally been funded through Fund 31, or which cannot be a majority of the budget that is utilized by the Tourism Commission. That would be, for instance, some of the organizational memberships that we have through M7 or the Water Council or MWork or Aerotropolis, the consulting that we've been contracting for through Connect the Dots. Also includes some of the marketing design that we've contracted with previously. But it also includes some new things, such as, again, the salary and benefits for this destination marketing specialist, as well as monies that could be used by the South Suburban Chamber to essentially lease space in the Civic Center, which would be returned to the city as a revenue. The areas in the green, which are really the core marketing activities that are called for under the state statute, have to exceed 51% of the budget of this tourism entity. And those include marketing and media purchases, the things we've been doing with the Packers and Brewers Radio Network, some funding for event programming, also proposing that we spend or invest $25,000 in the regional destination marketing services that are provided for the Milwaukee area by Visit Milwaukee. And that's important because the Oak Creek hotels benefit greatly from the activities that take place within the Milwaukee metropolitan area. And to the extent that we can invest in expanding that pool of hotel room nights throughout the region and, in effect, Oak Creek hotels, I think it's an important investment of our funds. And we'd also provide for some event programming and management through the chamber in the amount of about $15,000. So you can see how that equates to the operational budget of about a little north of $350,000. And that will grow as the years go on, leading up to 2021, as the amount that the city can retain for its general fund and Fund 31 purposes shrinks. The question that I'm sure you're all going to ask is, well, that's a lot of money. And, we could spend that on a lot of things. And yes, you can. Or you could, I should say. But it must be directed towards those activities that directly address tourism promotion and development. It is not an option for you to take this money and spend it on roads, or to spend it on police officers or firefighters or additional staff. So, and we certainly understand that that in the environment that we're in, the budgetary environment that we're in, this could go towards a lot of uses, but state statute is very prescriptive with respect to how the city must use these tax dollars, which are, again, not property tax dollars, but they're coming in from a hotel motel room tax. So where are we? I mean, you've already created a tourism commission, I think in 2014, as a matter of fact. That has not been fully staffed. What we're going to be doing this evening is presenting you with an ordinance which changes the composition of that tourism commission to better reflect the final state statute that was put in place. We'll be looking for the mayor to appoint members to the tourism commission, and I'd like in the 2-week interim before the next meeting to kind of get it out in the community that we're looking for individuals who might be looking to take part in this commission, as well as the aldermanic appointments to that commission. Also at the next common council meeting, we'll be establishing a special revenue fund for tourism commission revenues. This is going back to the level of control over this money by the council will be relinquished to a great extent to this tourism commission and the tourism entities for which it contracts with. We'd be looking to create a job description for a destination marketing specialist, which we already have a draft. Thank you, Becky. We will be going to the personnel committee in November and ultimately the common council to create the destination marketing specialist position looking to hire them in the months of November, December, for them to start along with the Tourism Commission in January of 2017. This same action plan will be presented to the CDA at their meeting tomorrow. I wanted to bring this to your attention this evening because it's the culmination of a greater part of two or 3 years of research and kind of trying to figure out along with the rest of the state as to what we can do under the statute. But it's, again, the key things are that the general fund will always retain at least the $457,000 that retains now. Fund 31 will continue to have some revenue attached to it, although that will be decreasing over the years. And as the revenue available to the Tourism Commission increases, that will have to be directed towards the Tourism Commission and tourism entities for tourism promotion and development. Now, the one thing, and I know I talked to Alderman Verhalen, and maybe he can bring that up during the discussion period, about what constitutes tangible municipal development, because there are a number of ways that we could go with that. But at this point, we are recommending kind of this course of action. We'll kind of take that back, see what the CDA thinks about it, and we'll bring that back for you for formal action at your next council meeting.
So how do you see the relationship between the chamber and this destination marketing specialist?
I think what we'll utilize the chamber for is things that they're very good at, is event management. I don't know that we'll rely on them very heavily for, again, this destination marketing, because it is a service that they traditionally don't do right now. And I think that the Tourism Commission would be better served by having an individual that's essentially employed by it and takes direction solely from the Tourism Commission rather than going through a third party.
And would you say, because you've had conversations with them, would you say CCUB is open to that?
Well, we haven't talked specifics in terms of dollars being exchanged. They are open to a relationship where the city is funding a portion of their operations through tourism revenue.
They've also expressed interest in being located in this building.
Correct.
And we would charge them rent, which would be allowed under this state?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Degner?
Arden Degner, 8540 South Pennsylvania Avenue. This is a remarkable way, isn't it, of increasing the size of government when we're trying to reduce the effect. Here we have another whole bureau that's not accountable to the city treasurer, finance officer, personnel committee. In fact, most of these people on the boards are volunteers. Now they're proposing, to me, this is very simply done because we've been involved in the Lake Vista development. There's been so much money, so much. But nobody wants to consider that as tourism? To me, that's the whole pie in the sky that we've been shown we have to see in Oak Creek, our star lakefront. Why, that will produce tourism. And yet, with one stroke, that could be taken care of without hiring people, without setting up another bureau. There must be another way you can handle this. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug?
Oh, just to clarify a few things. I mean, this is something which is directed by the state. This is not something that is being directed locally. This was by action of the state legislature and something which, quite frankly, this city fought vehemently because you're right, it takes local control away. And I think that we're trying to devise an action plan that retains as much local control as possible while fitting within the state statutes. With respect to Mr. Degner's comments regarding Lake Vista, again, this can't go to fund roadways, parks, things of that nature. And really the test that you need to apply to any funds that are utilized for this, or at least the 51% majority that must be spent on tourism promotion and development, is will this result in additional room nights in the community? And I know that there are a number of alternatives that are been floating around or will be floated around. But that's what you have to keep in the back of your mind is when the DOR looks at this, when outside organizations audit this, is this reasonably connected towards efforts to bring additional room nights into the community?
And ultimately, that's good news for us because it increases the hotel tax revenue. Yes, Jerry?
I think it bears repeating that this council and this community have been active for 2 or 3 years in this issue. We have worked with our municipal partners in the municipal league to try to get the municipal perspective in front of the legislature. This council has tried to keep local control of these dollars, has passed resolutions that have gone to the
So
state
gone to Madison and talked to them about that?
legislature and all of that. As Doug said, we were on joint phone calls with 700 other municipalities, and this is something that the state has done to us as opposed to for us. So we don't view this as positive legislation, but we must comply. And I would compliment, the city team here, and particularly Doug and his leadership, lots of work to try to figure out how best to create a structure that benefits the city most. Melissa, Doug have spent a lot of time. Bridget has spent a lot of time. I've been peripherally involved. So a lot of background work, a lot of trying to understand what this legislation says. If you've read it and tried to make heads or tails of it at the beginning, we've come a long way, and I think Doug has got a very workable plan here, and it's the best we can do under the legislation I think that we have to deal with, that we've been able to come up with at this point. So I would certainly compliment, particularly Doug and his efforts in trying to put the city's best foot forward on this issue. We think in the end we may be able to have somebody who can market not only for room nights, but help coordinate some of the activities that we're going to be doing here at Drexel Town Square, which is something we think we need anyway. So this legislation helps us fund that in part, as will payments from West Park. So I'll just kind of put that out there.
I was going to ask you that question. So we talked about the relationship between C-Cub and this position. There would be some relationship between the Drexel Town Square business.
Yeah, there would be an annual payment to us for marketing services, and we would contract in part for that. I think it's about $50,000. So there's some additional money that's coming from the association that's formed from Drexel Town Square that specifically will be for marketing.
And do you know, or you're shaking your head, come on up. I was just going to ask, what's the restrictions on that use? But let's get the word on that first.
Jerry Frankie, West Park, 301 West Wisconsin Avenue, Milwaukee. I really balk at the word marketing. It's more about events and things like that.
Right.
Otherwise, people think we're going to be going out and spending a lot of money on advertising. And no, we want to make sure that the town square is engaged and used, that we have the people that are necessary to run it, that we have tents for farmers market, that we have promotion of that facility, because that can become the heart of the community. I don't classify that as marketing, so that's why I would like to clarify the record a little bit. Right now, we expect, based upon a $3,500 per acre assessment, that will generate about $150,000. Part of that will go for snow removal and activities, maintenance of landscaping in the area, and the rest will go, as has been described by Doug and Jerry, but not necessarily for marketing.
See ice skating as a part of that $150,000?
I sure hope so, but it's it's a challenge. Sorry.
Thanks. Questions on the presentation before we jump into the actual discussion of the ordinance? All right, thank you for the presentation. Item 17 is a discussion of ordinance number 2826 relating to the composition of the Tourism Commission. We kind of touched on it through your presentation. What else do you have to add?
Sure. I mean, previously, and when we first established the Tourism Commission, the legislation itself was not finalized. It was kind of it was morphing along the way, and the best information that we had at that point in time led us to construct the Tourism Commission with the composition that we had it previously, and that included additional members representing the lodging industry and the hospitality industry. The legislation that was actually passed into law does away with much of that, and only requires that at least one of the members represent the Wisconsin hotel and motel industry. We are changing our ordinance or proposing to change our ordinance to reflect the state statute with that regard.
Okay, questions? Alderman Verhaelen.
Just a little bit on the, maybe it goes to the previous presentation, I didn't jump in there in time, but I talked to Doug this afternoon. When you look at the parameters for the Tourism Commission and what you're allowed to spend the money on, as well as advertising and whatnot, promotion of events in the city, there are some areas where you can invest in brick and mortar type things. And I just kind of thought about it a little bit and kind of mentioned to Doug this afternoon that perhaps we could, in moving forward, we could at one point approach the community center with maybe pulling them into the mix and maybe creating tourism/community center over there with that building, and possibly be able to put up a small convention center addition on that building, or maybe an auditorium that the high school could then use for some of their stuff that they were looking to do earlier in the year. Just an idea and a thought that, when we're looking at getting more bang for the buck and bringing actual things to the community, I just thought that, when it comes to actually spending the money on things that people can use, would be a good idea to maybe look into it.
Any comments, Doug?
Well, I think that you can, again, use that same test we talked about. I mean, is the investment likely to result in the increase in room nights in the community, motel room nights? And I mean, if you're talking a convention center, I don't think there's any question that it would. I think that the idea that Mark brought up, well, it's a good one. I think that when you bring in potentially the school as an auditorium and the community center as an operator, there are more questions than answers at this point. And I think we can certainly run that along a parallel track to see whether that's a possibility. But given the length of time, this has to be in place by January 1 of 2017. I think that the amount of time it's going to take to get those answers, quite frankly, is going to be much longer than that.
These funds can be redirected.
Yes.
We can make these decisions and
Well,
that's why I suggested it to Doug, is maybe it's something to look into, and if something could happen.
One of the things that I like about the convention center idea, and I know it's, a little far-fetched, but there is not a lot of space in Oak Creek or even in the immediate area for large meetings. The community center is one, but certainly a dual, if they had a dual space on both sides of the main area, they could certainly meet that convention or meeting room requirements for some of the larger things. So I like that part of it. I don't know that an auditorium necessarily fills hotels or motels. It might, depending on if there's a large performance, I guess. Jerry?
I think Alderman Verhaelen's on to a concept that specifically there may not make sense, but does work. Think about the lakefront. We talked about a hotel and a conference center potentially there. I've actually talked with Dr. Feldheim at MATC about creating a facility that potentially would bring people in for lectures, conferences, if you could fund something like that, because they don't have those kinds of facilities. So I think that can get developed over time. Doug's right too. We don't have that now, but I think that's an interesting thought. I think some of our neighboring communities are actually looking at seeing whether they have a visitors and convention bureau. Potentially, I know Brookfield is looking at that. So, there's some option to take a look at that. And there's a couple locations where that, we talked about at least 3 tonight, that potentially that could apply to. So that's something the committee would have to take a look at and see how you might want to direct those dollars.
Yeah, I think we should just keep an open mind on that, Doug.
I just want to reiterate, it's not the council that's going to be directing those dollars.
Right. It's a commission appointed by me. How many members? 5. Okay. Any other comments on 17? Go ahead.
Point of order.
City Attorney?
Thanks. Just, I noticed that if this ordinance is adopted, just Section 1 of the ordinance should just read, it's typographical, Section 2.77 in the title for Tourism Commission versus 2.79.
7.7 is the right language?
Correct.
Here? Oh, okay, got it. Good point of clarification. Anybody else? Motion on 17.
Gail move to approve ordinance 2826 relating to the composition of the Tourism Commission.
Kirkowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
All right, item 18 is a resolution, number 11749-100416. It would approve a certified survey map for the properties at 9202 South 8th Avenue and 9203, 9209, and 9213 South 7th Avenue in the 4th District. Doug?
Sure, the applicants, Randy and Lori Hunt, are requesting approval of the CSM, which combines these four properties. No development has been proposed at this time, just a combination of those properties. It does meet our requirements, and Planning Commission has reviewed the CSM and has recommended their approval, subject to the conditions that all easements are shown and that all technical corrections are made.
Applicants here? Well, you can sit unless there's some questions. Anybody? Seems pretty straightforward. Oh, Alderman Toman?
I know it says there's no plans at the present time, Doug, but was there any suggestion as to what may happen there? 'Cause I'm getting questions from some of my constituents.
I think that'd be a question best directed to the applicants.
All right, now you can come up. And name and address for the record.
Name is Randy Hunt. Address is 9443 Jasmine Court, Sturgeon, Wisconsin. And we had thought about adding on to the back of the garage. And that's why we wanted to join, so we could do that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do that because the lot line was too close.
Where's the consolidation of those three lots?
To meet the set, if you needed to meet the setbacks, that'd be one way of doing it.
Okay. Other future plans at this time?
Not that much.
All right, thank you.
No other questions? Motion on 18.
Holman will make a motion to adopt resolution number 11749, approving a certified survey map for the properties at 9202 8th Avenue, 9203, 9209, and 9213 South 7th Avenue.
Kirkowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Good luck. Yeah, you're welcome. Moving on to engineering, item 19 is a consideration of a motion to award the South IKEA Way Phase 2 road extension contract to the lowest responsible bidder, CW Perpero Inc., at the estimated cost of $2,122,182.07. Project number 15023. City Engineer Mike Simmons is on hand to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the next phase of the extension of IKEA Way, which is the roadway extending off of the intersection of 20th and Drexel, extending to the north. The first phase was recently completed, and that serves as the access for the new Ridgeview Elementary School. This next phase would extend another 1,700 feet to the north and would, in its initial use, would be the access for the proposed IKEA store. But then, of course, be a key segment in the further road extensions that would serve and promote further development in the area, northeast region of 27th and Drexel Avenue. At any rate, so this is the road and the utilities. Also improvements that will be necessary at the intersection of 20th and Drexel, which is traffic signals and then some extension of some turn lanes and median modifications. This project was designed in conjunction with the city's hired consultant, R.A. Smith National, and to help us with regulatory permitting, the design of the plan specifications bid package. Lot of interest in the project. We received 11 qualifying bids, and basically about top 5 bidders were within 8.5% of each other. The top 2.2% of each other. So sign of a good plan set and a very interested bidding market. So the schedule of the project would be to get underway here in the coming weeks. Start some grading, get utilities installed throughout the cold weather. probably then a bit of a break until the spring when they can commence then with the paving of the road. Target and very critical completion date of June 30th of 2017 to have that road open.
Gary?
Couple other, I think, important points on this. This is another project that initially some of our partners said we couldn't do in the time frame, and I think we're going to prove that we could within the time frame. We had significant cooperation and issues that we worked through with Milwaukee County. This section of the roadway is going through Falk Park, and we had to work with the county to be able to get easements and legal documents to be able to go through that property. We had some significant wetland permitting issues with the state that the state was very cooperative with us on. So I think those are good things. This bid comes in lower than what our estimates were. I think we're at 2.4 or 2.5, so we're under budget. We've already issued bonds for this. If the council will remember, we had 3 phases of this work. We had phase 1, which was the initial design to serve the school district. Then as we became aware that we had the IKEA that we needed to serve, we did a phase 1A. So we increased some of the aspects of that first phase to be able to accommodate the higher traffic counts. And then this phase 2 is now extending that roadway, as Mike said, 1,700 feet. It's also putting traffic signals in. So there'll be some rework in terms of the design on Drexel as a result of that process. But a lot of work by a lot of folks on the staff level here, and particularly the engineering department. Again, this is a project that contractually this road needs to be complete by 7/1 of next year. We're expecting IKEA construction to be underway in the spring with some construction roads. We're going to meet all the time frames. So this is good work by everybody involved, and including our consultant partners, the county, and the state. Quite honestly, everybody's worked very closely and well together on this project.
I don't know if I ever said this at council, but after we did the final approvals for IKEA, I got a call from the North American director of IKEA, and they said it was the fastest start to finish on any of their North American locations and that goes to engineering, legal, administration, community planning. All the departments all work together, finance, incredible cooperation, lots and lots of hours. I told the story the other day. We are producing at the highest level we've ever produced on economic development with the most lean team we've ever had that knows how to do this stuff really, really well. And that's why you're getting the kudos that you deserve, because of all the hard work that you've done in the last few years. So thanks to everybody that's worked on this. This is the next step in the process and what's going to be a tremendous development down the road. So well done. Anybody else? Guzzi?
Phase 3.
If you remember, the discussion on phase 3 was when the funding was available to be able to do that, we would begin that planning process. It's obviously not available at this point. We've had preliminary discussions with property owners in there. We expect activity to happen, so that will be the next chapter as it develops.
Anybody else? Motion on 19.
Kirkowski make a motion to award the South IKEA Way Phase 2 road extension contract, the lowest responsible bidder, CW Papero, Inc., at the estimated cost of $2,122,182.07.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Item 20 is a consideration of resolution number 11751-110416. It would approve the termination of temporary limited easement agreement by and between Oak Creek 17 Investor WI LLC and the City of Oak Creek, project number 12025, tax key number 8733-9010 in the First District. The attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. The council has seen this before. This is a temporary limited easement that was required as part of the DOT maintenance work that was done on South Howell Avenue. This is part of TID 10. This is before you because the new owner of the property at 6744 South Howell Avenue, which is Oak Creek 17 Investor WI LLC, has asked for this termination of the easement in recordable form. when this was brought before you on September 6th, that was the agreement, and that was between the city and prior owner. But the bottom line is, they are asking that this be recorded. This would be perhaps referred to as a belt and suspenders type of agreement. So this will be recorded, and it's essentially...
A legal term?
No, that's my term.
If I put it in quotes, it's legal. Belt and suspenders cleanup. So the bottom line is, this is to be recorded. It'll clear title for the new owner. So.
Any questions? Motion.
Kirkowski will make a motion to approve resolution number 11751-100416, approving the termination of temporary limited easement agreement by and between Oak Creek 17 Investor Wisconsin LLC and the City of Oak Creek, project number 12025.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Item 21 is a consideration of a motion to approve a waiver of $980 in right-of-way excavation permit fees from Milwaukee County Transit System for the installation of 18 concrete bus stop boarding pads in various districts. City engineer, or Jerry?
Thanks, Mayor. Jerry, do you want me to? Basically, that the city's been working a long time with Milwaukee County Transit System to extend the bus service to accommodate all the new development, and in particular, the Drexel Town Square. They have done so. On your screen, you'll see the red line, which is the 80 bus route, which extends now down through the city and through Drexel Town Square. The transit system now has made arrangements to install basically bus pads. This is not a bus stop, or a bus shelter, I should say. This is a bus pad, just basically a sidewalk section that takes from the main public sidewalk to the back of the curb for people to access the bus. They've got 18 of these that they need to put in along this route. And my understanding that they've been a very good partner with the city in getting this accomplished. So with no ask of any city contribution, other than they did ask that the fees for the work in the public right-of-way, these 18 permits, be waived. And that's estimated $980 worth of permit fees. And it's my understanding also that they ask that of all communities, and generally have been successful in that ask.
City administrator.
I was contacted by one of our department heads who pointed out to me the county has charged the city all of the fees in terms of our radio use fees and so forth, and hasn't been, but so I would just bring that to your attention.
That's a counter argument.
Yep.
Fire Chief Rosendich.
Yeah, I'd like to speak further on the issue, and because I was the department head that brought this up. Since last year, 2015, and going forward, we are being charged by the county for being part of the radio system fees on an annual basis that not only start at around $6,000 a year last year, that within 2019 will be over $28,000. Also, the fact of the matter is that we're in the finishing stages of our paramedic contract, and the reduction of $2 million to 1.5 is probably a known that it's going to happen. Part of that $500,000, which Oak Creek gets about $25,000 based on $30 run fees, will go away over the next 5 years. So in your consideration of exempting these fees, realize what the county is doing to the city of Oak Creek also, and to the other municipalities.
So the question is, do we want to be nice?
Sure.
Hold on.
Okay.
I see you, kind of. Do we want to be nice to the county and, waive the fees so that they can put these bus pads in, which will serve this route that they extended the last year or so? Or do we want to be firm and say, we really don't want to do that based on the actions that the county's done in some other areas, which are significant? I would also point out they still will provide $1.5 million in EMS funding that, frankly, they could wipe off the board instantly if they wanted to. So those are factors to be considered. My question for you guys is, does the decision, if the council makes the decision not to waive the fees, does that jeopardize the bus pads?
I had conversations with the county representative I don't think it would. They've got a federal grant for this. Their comments to me is when we've done this in communities, they have generally worked with us and waived their permit fees as kind of one governmental unit to the next. I think, you clearly see what the issues are out there. I can't imagine that they wouldn't move forward on that basis.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I also know the propensity of some county officials to make a big deal out of nothing. So I think we should think about that. Alderman Kirkowski?
This is probably more personal than aldermanic comment, but my county supervisor is in favor of the $60 wheel tax that every resident in Milwaukee County is going to have to pay. So you can probably read between the lines as to how I feel about this.
Okay, other comments?
Just
Alderman Verhaelen, then Alderman Tolman.
Just want this precedes pretty much all of the people sitting up here, outside of Alderman Tolman perhaps, but years ago the City of Oak Creek undertook a creek upgrading and cleaning operation along Oak Creek Channel, and the county charged us for ingress and egress for every portion of that creek we worked on. It was their responsibility because it was their property, but they wouldn't do it. So we volunteered to do the work, and they still charge us interest and egress fees on those. So it's something that maybe if we're going to have to do some of that work in the near future again, maybe you could switch it out on that, just a suggestion.
Alderman Tolman?
Mike, do we incur any expense here in inspecting these things when they're installed, or is there anything on our side that?
No cost, just
future
the potential loss of the revenue for the
How about the
permits.
future maintenance once they're installed? Do we take care of these things?
We would, where there are where we are doing the main sidewalk adjacent. Purely by ordinance, if it would be a residence, these are not along residential roads, then it would actually fall on the property owner, the residence adjacent. But the roads that these are along are generally commercial or multifamily residential. For instance, Centennial, where there's all the apartments, and that would be maintained by the apartment maintenance person.
In response to the mayor's question, should we be nice? I say no. If you want a straw poll.
Okay. Done, Mike? Just one thing that I noticed in the council report is the third paragraph. These concrete paths will help all residents with improved bus access at stops within the city, but particularly will provide improved boarding help for seniors and persons with disabilities. So again, my question is, does the decision to not waive the fees jeopardize the concrete installation of the concrete pads? Because if we don't put the pads in, or they don't put the pads in, then that paragraph becomes more relevant to me. So you can't be a crystal ball, but what's your best guess?
And I had the conversation, I think the pads still go in if we charge the fees.
Okay. Alderman Guzikowski?
I would like to have a rider added on to this, that if the county would be happy to take care of 13th Street south of Ryan Road, that would be very helpful and beneficial to those who are handicapped and have, I'm just saying, it's like Ryan Road south.
And those not handicapped as well. Jerry?
Maybe I can suggest, based on the comments were made, if there would be some interest in a waiver, but that would be a credit towards any county fees that the city might incur in the future, might be a way to do it.
Sounds good to me. Good compromise. Thanks for thinking of that. Everybody cool with that? All right, let's do that. Whoever's making a motion.
I'm sorry.
You're not good? It would be a wash.
So in other words,
I understand what you said, but I think it just came up pretty quick. I mean,
discuss.
It's not in writing, Jerry. I mean, you just verbally said it. What if they say no? When we approve it, I mean, are we back at this at the next meeting? I mean, my preference is to deal with what's on the agenda, and if they don't like it, you can go back with Plan B, and then we address it again. But I personally don't want to modify anything tonight. based on comments. I don't trust them, you know? And I like to go off of Alderman Guzikowski, you know, let's make 13th between Drexel and Ross and 4-lane too, then we'll go.
Just knowing since I'm on the Capital Improvement Committee for Milwaukee County, knowing the politics of decisions based on roadways, everything we say, everything we do as far as council action is looked at and reviewed, and it shouldn't matter, but it does matter. So it's not just 13th Street south of Ryan, it's 13th Street south of Rawson.
All the way down, I
Yeah.
agree.
So even that decision, which a year ago I thought was etched in stone, is not really etched in stone based on things I hear now, heard last week. So all these decisions can make us feel good, but ultimately I care about what happens on the streets, on the sidewalks, on the bus pads, because to me the third paragraph means something. So if you think it's going to jeopardize those pads being installed, I would be careful doing what you want to do. That's why I like to compromise. Be more than happy to write the language in or have someone read the language in that says, we will waive the fees if the county reciprocates on $900 and whatever it was, $80 in fees that we have to pay. Seems like a logical, but the person that makes the motion can decide what the motion is. I'm Council President.
I'd go with the crafting some language to encompass the mayor's suggestion for compromise language, this for that.
For the city attorney, is that just essentially throw it back to them? Because they would have to agree to that, correct?
Give us time to see what happens out of the EMS discussion too.
Looking into the future, it's a little bit difficult to say. I think that you have a discrete issue in front of you, whether or not to waive the fees. I mean, that's one way of looking at it. The other is, what's it going to attach to as far as a credit? Is it going to be one particular project? Is it going to be out of a particular contract that's being renewed? That's my 2 cents.
Does it have to be specific to a certain?
No, I think if we make, I was thinking if we had a motion that was to waive the fees subject to the county grant of a waiver to fees that it would otherwise charge to the city in the future, I think I think that's a little bit hard to track, but I think we can figure that out. This is $1,000.
And Jerry, when I alluded to the fees they charged us years ago on the creek thing, I believe they charged the city $2,000 per area that we worked on the creek. And we worked on 3 or 4 different areas on the creek, but they charged us $2,000 permit fee, I think, on every place that we did work along the creek. And I know there's some spots and areas, because what we did is clean brush off the banks, took deadfalls out of the creek, and where there was dams of debris and stuff, we took all that stuff out. And they would not volunteer to do that, so we did the work, and they still charge us an entrance and egress fee. So, I mean, if it happens to be that particular type of project again, you know, probably at least get a wash on 1 or 2 anyway.
Got to figure out internally how to document that
Right.
and how to make sure we get that. I think we can do that.
Mayor, what happens if we go forward with this and we give them the waiver based on something happening in the future, and then we have a project and they look at this and go, sorry, we're not obligated to abide by this thing that you passed 3, 4, 5 years ago?
How do we speak to Alderman Kirkowski's notion that enforcement would be a big issue? How do you make them reciprocate? I'm guessing you can't.
They would have a similar discussion as you're having.
Right, which again would not be I don't believe would be a positive one. So let's make a motion, whatever you think is appropriate. Council makes those decisions.
I'll move to approve a waiver of $980 on the right-of-way excavation permit fees from the Milwaukee County Transit System, subject to a comparable waiver of fees that Oak Creek would owe the county in the future for the installation of 18 concrete bus stops boarding pads.
Do we have a second?
Verhaelen, second.
I think I heard Tolman second. Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
No.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Moving to item 22 is a consideration of resolution number 11750-100416, approving a detention basin easement with Oak Creek Franklin Joint School District located at 2200 West Drexel Avenue, project number 15023, tax key number 785-9004. Mike?
This is the a proposed easement that you see on the screen that encompasses the relatively new detention pond that serves the new elementary school, the Forest Ridge Elementary School. It also does serve Phase 1 of IKEA Way. The storm sewer drains to that pond. As we got underway with design of Phase 2 and the additional need for stormwater management, it was determined quickly that the most efficient way to do that would be to route that stormwater to that same pond and to do the necessary modifications to the pond to accommodate that additional stormwater flow. So we basically got in touch with the school district and kind of worked out this agreement. The gist of the agreement is that they will grant us the easement. We can do the modifications of the pond that are required. We can drain the Phase 2 of IKEA Way to that pond, and the city's contribution towards this is to undertake the ongoing maintenance of the stormwater detention pond, and that it does not include routine the ongoing grass mowing. It is basically the semi-annual maintenance of the detention pond, the outlet structure, and
Make sure it works efficiently.
Right, basically taking on the duties that they have previously indicated that they will take on with the standard stormwater maintenance agreement.
Okay.
It's a really good way to do this. We did not have to buy additional real estate to put an additional pond in, so we really wanted to get this done, and the school district was accommodating.
Seems like a good cooperation between the school district and the city. Alderman Gale?
Mike, do we have, when you have a lot of construction going on, as we're gonna have near there, do you typically have a lot of sedimentation in there where you're gonna experience to have to dredge this thing soon, or is that a down the horizon kind of event?
I would say that it would be down the horizon a bit. You know, we will employ all the methods we need to for sediment control, erosion control, sediment control. If there is a big deluge and there is sediment into the pond, we would get in there while all that construction equipment is on site and dredge that out.
But in your estimation, the benefits of not having to buy another piece of property and dig another hole in the ground far outweighs that.
Yes, by far, yes.
Okay, other questions? Motion.
Kirkowski make a motion to approve resolution number 11750-100416, approving a detention basin easement with the Oak Creek Franklin Joint School District located at 2200 West Drexel Avenue, project number 15023.
Go second.
Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Abstain.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Item 23 is a motion to approve the installation of no trucking signs on East Drexel Avenue and South Pennsylvania Avenue and East Howell Avenue, and approve the installation of deaf child area signs on East Manitowoc Avenue in the First District. Mike?
This is a traffic and safety issue. I myself was not at the meeting, but this was the results of the recommendation from the Traffic and Safety Committee. The issue on East Drexel Avenue was ongoing calls complaining about trucks on that stretch of road that is not one of our official heavy traffic routes, and the strong belief is that it's trucks that are exiting the Drexel interchange, continuing eastbound. They should be then continuing on to Howell Avenue as the next segment of a truck route, but they are continuing eastbound and we suspect heading straight into South Milwaukee to the shopping center at the intersection in the vicinity of Drexel and Chicago Road, and then vice versa on the way out.
Okay, questions on this installation of trucking signs or the deaf child area signs? Alderman Kirkowski?
For what it's worth, I was at that Traffic and Safety Committee meeting, obviously, because it was my request. And I had personally never seen any large trucks, but I don't dispute the fact that the neighbors kept calling me with the fact and keeping logs that these trucks were coming down Drexel Avenue. So, you know, lo and behold, the following day on the meeting, I get off the freeway at Drexel Avenue right behind a truck, big semi. And I'm thinking, well, all right, I finally, hit pay dirt and thinking it's going to turn at Howell. The truck does not turn at Howell. It proceeds on Drexel Avenue, and interestingly enough, turns on its four-way flashers as soon as it got past that the weight limit sign. It drove all the way through Drexel Avenue, all the way through South Milwaukee, got to South Chicago Avenue, made a right, turned left at the Falcon gas station, left at the First Street, and went into the Eaton plant, where it turned off its four-way flashers, by the way. So I notified Matt Sullivan, and he says, well, the correct route for that truck would have been Ryan Road to South Chicago up to there. So, residents are correct. I mean, the trucks are using Drexel Avenue, and they shouldn't be. One little potential hiccup with the sign, and I talked to the Chief Anderson about that, is I'm going to go back to traffic and safety, because there might be a need to put a sign kind of in the vicinity of Chick-fil-A letting trucks know that they can't go past Howell. Because if they go past Howell and they see a sign, there's really kind of where are they going to turn around. So that's something I'll work out with traffic and safety, but we kind of thought as a starting point, we'll start with the signs.
Chief Anderson, question. In your experience, how many years of experience do you have?
25.
In your 25 years of experience, how effective are no trucking signs in keeping large trucks off of roadways?
They're probably not that effective to keep them off, but they're much easier for us to enforce other than a weight limit sign. It's an automatic ticket. We don't have to take them to the scales, do anything else. For violation of a traffic sign is a separate violation in itself. And my concern with where the signs were placed is once somebody crosses Howell Avenue, they don't have a place to turn around, so then they're stuck.
So we do have to do some work on where the signs go.
Yes, and that engineering are the experts at that and the actual verbiage that would be on the signs. They put them up and we enforce it.
Good. And I would imagine, do we have a timeline for how long it takes to get signs like that installed?
These signs generally, street department is on them, and they could be installed before the end of the week.
And then my recommendation, it's just a recommendation since you're the boss in the police department. I would say we would like to see some enforcement of that area once those signs are installed.
Yes.
Okay. Sound good? All right. Anything else? If not, a motion on 23.
Verhaelen makes a motion to approve the installation of no trucking signs on East Drexel Avenue, South Pennsylvania Avenue, and East Hall Avenue, and to approve the installation of a deaf child sign area at East Mantuan Avenue.
Kirkowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Tillman.
Aye.
Gale. Aye. Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
All right. Licensing, we'll hand it off to Alderman Kirkowski.
License Committee met on 9/23/16. Minutes are attached. Recommendations are as follows. Item 24, consider a motion. Kirkowski make a motion to grant an operator's license to Cynthia Tice, 8481 South Fifth Avenue, Oak Creek.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale. Aye. Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
25.
Kirkowski make a motion to grant an operator's license to Michael Villu. Yes, 9523 South Ryan Green Court, Franklin.
Your microphone off? Your microphone's off. Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
All seeing, all powerful, Ken.
Watch it.
Item 26.
Following items were received after the License Committee met. Tentative recommendations are as follows. Kirkowski will make a motion to grant an operator's license to the 3 individuals listed on the agenda. Favorable background reports were received.
Gale, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
All right, moving on to miscellaneous. Item 27 is a consideration of a motion to convene in the closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State statutes to discuss the following. A, Section 19.851E, to discuss the terms of a proposed amended and restated tax incremental District Number 8 Finance Development Agreement between the City of Oak Creek and West Park LLC in the Oakview Business Park. B, Section 19.851E, to discuss the terms of a proposed amended and restated tax incremental District Number 11 Finance Development Agreement between the City of Oak Creek and One West Drexel LLC, Drexel Town Square. C, 19.851C, to consider the Personnel Committee's recommendation for compensation for City Administrator Gerald Peterson. D, Section 19.851E, to discuss the terms of a proposed development agreement, including a TIF incentive grant for a property owned by Woodman's Food Market, Inc., consisting of approximately 4 acres located at 8142 South 6th Street. Alderman Gale.
Gale moves to convene in the closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State statutes to discuss the following. A, Section 19.85 sub 1 sub E, to discuss the terms of a proposed amended and restated tax incremental District Number 8 Finance Development Agreement between the City of Oak Creek and West Park LLC. B, Section 19.85 sub 1 sub E, to discuss the terms of a proposed amended and restated tax incremental District Number 11 Finance Development Agreement between the City of Oak Creek and One West Drexel LLC. C, Section 19.85 sub 1 sub C, to consider the Personnel Committee's recommendation for compensation for City Administrator Gerald Peterson. D, Section 19.85 sub 1 sub E, to discuss the terms of a proposed development agreement, including a TIF incentive grant for the property owned by Woodman's Food Market, Inc., and consisting of approximately 4 acres located at 8142 South 6th Street.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
We will now convene in closed session in the closed session chambers. We'll turn the live stream back on when we come back in open session. Roll call.
Alderman Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Item 29, we'll need a motion on the Personnel Committee's recommendation for compensation for City Administrator Gerald Peterson.
Gale move to approve a $5,000 merit pay award for City Administrator Gerald Peterson.
Guzekowski, second.
Holman seconds, roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Item 30 is a consideration of resolution number 11734-100416, approving an agreement by and between the City of Oak Creek and West Park LLC. If no questions or comments, we need a motion on 30.
Gale will move to approve resolution number 11734-100416, approving an agreement by and between the City of Oak Creek and West Park LLC.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Item 31 is a consideration of resolution number 11735-100416, approving the amended and restated tax incremental District Number 8 Finance Development Agreement with West Park LLC in the 5th District. If no questions or comments, need a motion on 31.
Gale will move to approve resolution 11735-100416, approving the amended and restated tax increment District Number 8 Finance Development Agreement with West Park LLC.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
And finally, item 32 is a consideration of resolution number 11736-100416. It approves the amended and restated tax incremental District Number 11 Finance Development Agreement with One West Drexel LLC in the 2nd District. If no questions or comments, motion on 32.
Gale will move to approve resolution 11736-100416, approving the amended and restated tax incremental District Number 11 Finance Development Agreement with One West Drexel LLC.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call. Oh, you have a question? Roll call.
Alderman Verhaelen.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Come on up.
Jerry Frankie, I know the hour's late. I'm not going to be here 2 weeks from tonight. I understand that's going to be City Administrator Jerry Peterson's last meeting. I will tell you, that he has been a real problem solver for our very complex projects here in Oak Creek. You on the City Council have been tremendous partners. This has been a real enjoyable activity for all of us, I think, that are involved. Lots of challenges, things like that. So thank you for working with us on these amendments, but also I wanted to take the moment to just say thank you to Jerry Peterson. He really always found a way to come up with a solution, and that's what makes it fun working with people.
Agreed. Thanks for saying that. Did we get a roll call? Yes, we did. All right, motion to adjourn.
Kirkowski will make a motion to adjourn.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Verhaelen.
Oh.
All right, you stay, we go home. Thanks for watching, we'll see you next week.